If I could only think of how to cut you away, I wouldn't be so frightened or scared to be enlightened. It's kind of difficult to keep my mind on a day that I didn't really mind it. It's in my face, I'll find it. The fields of colors bleeding and it's so far from home. The thoughts keep coming forward, I wish I wasn't so bored. Does it really matter if I'm dying alone? I often try to fake it, what's in my face I'll take it. I'm trying not to break it, the timing it was so right. The heaviness is so light, no more or less is coming. The substance stand for something, you keep speaking easy, you really do believe me. Please tell me where you're going. I hope my fear is showing, 'cause I'll never ever see you again. If I could have the heart to take a knife to my skin, I'd carve your name for comfort, a feeling there of some sort. It's been a small eternity tormenting within, so hard to keep it inside. My mouth waits for the surprise, staring out my window at a bird on the line. I wish I could get cable, I wish that I was able to filter all the brainwaves that will enter my mind. If I didn't have to see it, I just don't think I need it. If I was pierced, I'd bleed it. Faster is the placement to fill your mental basement. Enough room for your demons, the catalyst with semen. I'm sorry if I frighten, but you're someone I confide in. Please tell me where you're going. I hope my fear is showing, 'cause I'll never ever see you again. I'll never ever see you again.
am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Well, now, here we are. It's me, Uncle Warren. I can't tell you my name because my shit's fucked up. I had it's great when you find out one of your pieces of equipment that you use for the show doesn't work right before the show. So it's going to be a little AC-doocy, not AC-DC, this morning. So if you see me tech fucking up shit, that's why. Yeah, so it's all right. We're all good. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday. It's Morning Extra. I'm Uncle Warren, and shout outs to Ellen and Amber over on Facebook. I don't think we've ever had two people watching us on Facebook at one time. So this is groundbreaking stuff. So thanks, ladies. Appreciate you. We got Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. I believe he's going to have a new episode this Friday night. We'll tell you more about that on Friday. Max Sarge in the house. What's up, Max? Willie Bragg. Good morning from the Raleigh, North Carolina Nissan dealer. You know, I hear that place is nice this time of year. You know, I hear the water's warm and the service is great. Around the world, D and friends. What's up, D? Good to see you too. Global Solidarity is here, as well as CBC voter off the top there. Good to see you, pal. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day to everybody here. Al Qaeda and the U.S. government are going steady again. Kisses! XXX. O, but no O, because it's only kisses. That's what XXXOOO means, hugs and kisses. So I guess the O's would be kisses. I don't know, the X's should be kisses because more like your mouth kind of makes more of an X. I guess it makes more of an O. I don't know how you kiss. It's none of my fucking business. It's going to be one of them days, folks. Strap in. Should be an interesting time for somebody out there. So we'll get to the news in a second. Of course, we want to remind you about our buddy Chanda Masta. She is undergoing treatment for lung cancer. She has been for the last, I think, couple months now. And, of course, this shit is never cheap. And Chanda is not a rich lady. So if you could, there's a GoFundMe link for her down below if you want to donate. If you can't donate, if you could share out the link, that would be Coolio and the gang as well. X. What made you the authority? How do you know X is a kiss? Then why is it XXXOOO hugs and kisses? Why wouldn't they say kisses and hugs? Come on, that's fake news. Yeah. So what else is going on? Yeah, I guess we got news here. Yeah, this is going to be fun to do today without my little pad of hope. But you know what? We'll give the old college try. Fuck it. So they caught a dude that apparently whacked the CEO guy. Yeah, I think that's it. This is so weird doing this manually. I'm sorry. Suspect detained over health insurance executive's murder. You probably already know about this guy. 26-year-old man was arrested Monday over the targeted killing of a health insurance executive on the streets of New York, with investigators charging him with possession of fake IDs and a gun. Investigators continue to interrogate Luigi Mangione in connection with last week's brazen murder, which triggered a nationwide manhunt and global headlines. Because it was the CEO of a drug company. If it was just been you or me, they would have told, well, I don't know. Well, we'll let you know what happens. So he arrived at a Pennsylvania court wearing a dark sweatshirt after 6 p.m. Monday and was led inside by Altoona police, flanked by NYPD detectives, where he was arraigned. Broadcasters showed Mangione is next due to appear in court on December 23rd, which is also Festivus. We're going to have a Festivus show here, so be sure to watch for that. I know, I love a good segue. Circle is an arm. Is it zero? O is a circle of arms entrapping you. Oh, I see. Okay. All right, Global Solidarity, you win this time, but I will get my revenge at the science fair. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro said that murder charges in New York State would follow, telling a media briefing, "We do not kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences or express a viewpoint." Sure you do. It's called war. Police have not confirmed reports. The words delay and deny, language used by insurers to reject claims, were written on casings found at the scene, hinting at a possible political motive for the crime. According to a New York Times report citing friends of Mangione, he lived with serious back pain and underwent surgery for the condition last year. A photo of what appeared to be one of his social media accounts included an x-ray of an apparently injured spine. I'm sure you've all seen that. Mangione was apprehended by officers following a tip from staff at an Altoona McDonald's branch. Narc. Snitches get stitches. Where he was found wearing a mask and a beanie while using a laptop, and gave officers a fake ID, charging documents show. They then searched him and found what police called a ghost gun, capable of firing 9mm rounds and equipped with a suppressor that could have been made on a 3D printer. And a ghost gun is a gun that doesn't have serial numbers. When officers asked if he had been to New York recently, Mangione became quiet and started to shake, according to the criminal complaint. One of the fake IDs found was that used to check into a Manhattan hostel ahead of the attack, discovered alongside a document that spoke to Mangione's motivation and mindset. New York police said Mangione was born and raised in Maryland, studied at the Ivy League University of Pennsylvania, UPenn, and had been living in Hawaii ahead of the killing. He matches the description of the identification we've been looking for. The guy was wearing a mask. It was a white dude, and that's half America. He's also in possession of several items that we believe will connect him to this incident, said New York Mayor Eric Adams. That's probably the Monopoly money they found in the bag. I still don't get that. Police told reporters that Mangione possessed material that suggested he had ill will towards corporate America. Well, I guess we're all guilty of that shit. Mangione's LinkedIn profile showed he worked as a data engineer at TrueCar, a California-based online auto marketplace that said he left their employment last year. In last Wednesday's shooting, the gunman walked up behind Brian Thompson, a senior executive at United Healthcare, one of the country's largest medical insurers, and shot him dead in front of bystanders. The attack was captured by a surveillance camera, and the footage seen by millions around the world as interest in the manhunt and mystery over the killer's motives built to a frenzy. Thompson was attending an investor conference in the Midtown Business District. Detectives said the suspect fled the crime scene on foot before riding a bike to Central Park and later boarding a bus from a terminal in the north of the city connecting New York to surrounding states and beyond. Police have not confirmed media reports that the words delay and deny, language often used by, we already said that. Video footage shows Thompson on the sidewalk outside the New York Hilton Midtown when a man in a hooded top, his lower face covered, approaches from behind and fires several shots at the father of two, only they threw the father of two in there, who crumples to the ground. An image released of the subject was obtained from a youth hostel where the gunman apparently stayed before the hit, with media reporting he had lowered his mask to flirt with a receptionist. A photo on what appeared to be one of Mangione's social media accounts includes an X-ray of an apparently injured spine, though no explicit political affiliation has emerged. The highly profitable U.S. medical insurance system is the source of deep frustration and anger among many Americans due to its steep costs and limited coverage, and Thompson's death was greeted with an absence of sympathy by by a lot of people. A Facebook post mourning his loss shared by United Health Group racked up more than 71,000 laugh emojis within 2 days before the counter was disabled. Yeah, people ain't buying your bullshit. Mangione must now be extradited from Pennsylvania to New York to face murder charges. His family released a joint statement late Monday saying they are shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. And Mario had no comment. You knew that was coming. Maybe you didn't. I don't know. You probably did. So he's in Pennsylvania right now, but he's trying to fight extradition to New York. Mangione, the 26-year-old accused of fatally shooting CEO Brian Thompson, has signaled he will fight being extradited to New York to face murder charges. He appeared in court in Pennsylvania yesterday, a day after he was arrested in the town of Altoona, following that tip from that idiot McDonald's employee. He was charged with Thompson's New York killing hours after his arrest, as well as a slate of lesser offenses in Pennsylvania. Emerging from a police car, Mangione gave a partly unintelligible message to reporters, although he made reference to an insult to the intelligence of the American people. Well, that's assuming that the American people have that intelligence, but okay. At the briefing, his defense lawyer, Thomas Dickey, told the court that Mangione would contest extradition to New York, requesting a hearing on the issue. He has 14 days to lodge a formal challenge to being relocated to New York, and in the meantime, he will be held in Pennsylvania without bail. While in court, Mangione wore an orange prison jumpsuit, alternating between staring forward, looking at papers, and looking back at the gallery. He was quieted at one point by his lawyer when he attempted to speak. The court appearance came 6 days after a gunman fatally shot Thompson. Yeah. You already know the rest of that, 'cause we just told you. Yeah, so, so that's what's developing there. And there is a frustration. Me personally, I don't think I could go and murder somebody. But then again, I am human, just like the rest of us. And you never know. When you're put into when you have to put yourself in other people's shoes, right? Not literally, obviously, because they may not fit. But I'm just saying, like, when you put yourself in the position of somebody who maybe themselves has had, poor luck with the insurance companies, getting denied or, told that something wasn't covered. I mean, it's frustrating. I was fortunate. My dad was a veteran, and we were all covered under his veterans benefits. So our health care was included. But, but that still does, that doesn't mean you can't have empathy for people who are in a situation like that. Now, I don't know. I've read some things about this guy that he came from a rich family. His family had some sort of nursing home, and apparently it was run. I don't know. There's definitely more to this, so we'll keep an eye on it. I don't normally keep an eye on gossipy stuff, but this is a very interesting story for sure. But like I said, there's a lot of people struggling with financial bills. Hell, we got a GoFundMe for one of our friends. That's the biggest source of money to pay for medical bills is GoFundMe, which is sad, right? Hang on a second. There we go. So then that comes to this from Common Dreams. 62% of Americans agree U.S. government should ensure everyone has health coverage. And this isn't a new number. I mean, we go back, Bernie Sanders brought this up in 2016. And they were taking polls then, too, that over 60% of people, or at least close to 60% of people, wanted government provided health care, right? Well, like, to pay for it. They want the government to pay for it. They don't want government doctors, but they want the government to pay for it. So 62% of Americans agree U.S. government should ensure everyone has health care. This is from Julia Conley over at Common Dreams. That's a good site. They get a little into they get a little Trump derangement syndrome over there at Common Dreams. But if you avoid those stories, and the other stuff's pretty good. Public sentiment regarding the nation's for-profit healthcare system, an outlier among wealthy nations, has dominated the national news in recent days following last week's killing of an insurance executive in New York. On Monday, just hours before a suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was arrested by police, a new Gallup poll found 62% majority in the U.S. believe the government should ensure all Americans have health care coverage, the highest percentage in more than a decade. Just 42% of people in 2013 believed it was the government's responsibility to make sure everyone in the country had health coverage, a low since the beginning of this century. Who was president in 2013? Oh, yeah, that was Obama. Obama said we're going to do the Affordable Care Act. Affordable Care Act would be better than Medicare for All because then insurance companies get a little piece of the action. The poll found that a majority of Republicans still believe ensuring health coverage is not the government's job, but the majority has shrunk since 2020. That year, only 22% of Republican voters believe the government should ensure everyone in the country has health care, but that has now grown to 32%. So a third of Republicans are starting to come around. The percentage of independents who think the issue is in the government's purview has also gone up by 6 points since 2020, and Democratic support remains high, currently at 90%. 90% of which Democrats? That's what I want to know. It sure as fuck ain't the ones who like trying to spearhead this shit. Americans have vented their frustrations about the current for-profit health insurance system in recent days as police search for a suspect in the killing of Thompson before arresting Mangione in Pennsylvania Monday. Mangione, according to claims by police, was found with a manifesto that railed against the insurance industry. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's funny that do people always carry their manifestos everywhere they go? Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield last week also faced public outcry and was forced to reverse a decision to slash coverage for anesthesia care, with U.S. Representative Ro Khanna saying the move indicated that the current system is broken. You're just now figuring that out? Dollar Tree Ray Romano looking motherfucker. Democrats will regain trust by standing up to special interest insurance companies and fighting for Medicare for all, he said. Yeah, that's a nice little pipe dream. They're not going to fight for that shit. Donald Trump and other Republicans who are set to control both chambers of Congress starting in January have indicated that they would go in the opposite direction, working to weaken the popular government-run Medicare program by promoting Medicare Advantage, which is administered by for-profit companies like United and is already used by half of Medicare beneficiaries. But one of Trump's top allies, that motherfucker Elon Musk, waded into the debate last week about the current healthcare system, questioning why the U.S. pays far more in administrative healthcare costs than other wealthy countries, and suggesting Americans don't get their money's worth. And that's something Sanders had brought up in the past too, during his presidential runs too, was the administrative healthcare costs, the administrative costs. That Medicare for All would basically take all this bureaucracy and put it and shrink it down to where it would save money. Another poll released Friday found Americans' positive opinion of the nation's healthcare quality has declined to its lowest point since 2001, with most agreeing the U.S. system, dominated by private insurers, has major problems. Yep, they do. They have major problems. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And especially those who have, chronic health problems, right? Are constantly trying to find ways to pay for this stuff, and they can't do it because, the prices keep going up and up. Meanwhile, some good news if you're a fan of antitrust issues, like busting up people trying to, get together and screw you out of money. So judge blocks Kroger-Albertsons merger in a win for farmers, workers, and consumers. Antitrust advocates yesterday welcomed a pair of court rulings against the proposed merger of grocery giants Kroger and Albertsons, which was challenged by FTC Chair Lena Khan and multiple state attorneys general. The FTC, along with that's the Federal Trade Commission for you and me. The FTC, along with our state partners, scored a major victory for the American people, successfully blocking Kroger's acquisition of Albertsons, said Henry Liu, director of the Commission's Bureau of Competition, in a statement. This historic win protects millions of Americans across the country from higher prices for essential groceries, from milk to bread to eggs, ultimately allowing customers to keep more money in their pockets. This victory has a direct, tangible impact on the lives of millions of Americans who shop at Kroger or Albertsons' own grocery stores for their everyday needs, whether that's a Fry's in Arizona, a Vons in Southern California, I've been to Vons, or a Jewel Osco in Illinois. I've been to two of those, he added. This is also he didn't add that. I added that. This is also a victory for thousands of hardworking union employees protecting their hard-earned paychecks by ensuring Kroger and Albertsons continue to compete for workers through higher wages, better benefits, and improved working conditions. That's the thing. You talk about capitalism. There's no competition in anything, like the media, anything else. All these companies keep merging and merging and merging. And people just playing pickup sticks with their butt cheeks. While Lou was celebrating the preliminary injunction from Oregon-based U.S. District Court Judge Adrian Nelson, later Tuesday, King County Superior Court Judge Marshall Ferguson released a ruling that blocked the merger in Washington state. We're standing up to mega monopolies to keep prices down, said the Washington Attorney General Bob Ferguson. No relation. We went to court to block this illegal merger to protect Washingtonians' struggle with high grocery prices and the workers whose jobs were at stake. This is an important victory for affordability, worker protections, and the rule of law. I don't know why they got her in there. Advocacy groups applauding the decision also pointed to the high cost of groceries and the anticipated impact of Kroger buying Albertsons, a $24.6 billion deal first announced in October 2022. American families are the big winner today thanks to the Federal Trade Commission. The only people who stood to gain from the potential merger between Albertsons and Kroger were their wealthy executives and investors, asserted Liz Zelnick of Accountable.us. The rest of us are letting out a huge sigh of relief knowing today's victory is good news for competitive prices and consumer access. Well, they'll probably try again when Trump's in there. So, don't get too excited. Describing the federal decision as a victory for common sense antitrust enforcement that puts people ahead of corporations, Food and Water Watch senior food policy analyst Rebecca Wolf also pointed out that persistently high food prices are hitting Americans hard, and a Kroger-Albertsons mega merger would have only made it worse. Already a handful of huge corporations stranglehold on our food system means that consumers are paying too much for too little choice in supermarkets. Workers are earning too little, and farmers and ranchers cannot get fair prices for their crops and livestock, she noted. Today's decision and strengthened FTC merger guidelines help change the calculus. Like Wolf, Farm Action president and co-founder Angela Huffman similarly highlighted that while industry consolidation increases prices for consumers and harms workers, grocery mergers also have a devastating impact on farmers and ranchers. When grocery stores consolidate, farmers have even fewer options for where to sell their products, and the chances of them receiving a fair price for their goods are diminished further, Huffman explained. Today's ruling is a win for farmers, workers, and consumers alike. Some advocates especially praised Khan, a progressive FTC chair whom President-elect Donald Trump plans to replace with Andrew Ferguson, a current commissioner who previously worked as chief counsel to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and as Republican counsel on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Today's decision is a major win for shoppers and grocery workers. Families have been paying the price of unchecked corporate power in the food and grocery sector, and further consolidation would only worsen the crisis, declared Groundwork Collaborative Executive Director Lindsay Owens in a statement. FTC Chair Lena Khan's approach is the blueprint to deliver lower prices, higher wages, and an economy that works for everyone, Owens argued. The rebirth of antitrust enforcement has protected consumers against the worst of corporate power in our economy, and it would be wise to continue this approach. Laura Kilgore, research manager at the American Economic Liberties Project, or AELP, called the federal ruling a resounding victory for workers, consumers, independent retailers, and local communities nationwide, and a powerful validation of Chair Khan and the FTC's rigorous enforcement of the law. The FTC presented a strong case that Kroger and Albertsons fiercely compete head-to-head on price, quality, and service. The ruling is a capstone on the FTC's work over the past 4 years and includes favorable citations to the FTC's recent victories against the Tapestry Capri, IQVIA Propel, and Illumina Grail mergers, Kilgore continued. The court also cites long-standing Supreme Court law, which recognizes that Congress was also concerned with the impacts of mergers on smaller competitors. She added, "We applaud the FTC for securing one of the most significant victories in modern antitrust enforcement and for successfully protecting the public interest from harmful consolidation." Despite the celebrations, the legal battle isn't necessarily over. The AP reported that the case may now move to the FTC, although Kroger and Albertsons have asked a different federal judge to block the in-house proceedings, and Colorado is also trying to halt the merger in state court. Yeah, so it's not over yet, but it's a good sign, right? But again, I don't want people to get their peoples. I don't want people to get their peoples up. I don't want people to get their hopes up. You know, I mean, these are bizarre times, right? People are Carlos over on Facebook. We got 3 people on Facebook. The apocalypse is nigh. Don't let Kroger buy Albertsons. They will raise all prices. Every chain they bought, prices went up. They rip off consumers. All $4 million bonuses for CEOs. That's right. Oh, Amber, yeah, that's right. You're up there. You're up there in the PNW, the Pacific Northwest. That's what the kids call it. I don't know. Or maybe adults too. Who knows? Meanwhile, out in Malibu, California's always dealing with wildfires, right? Every summer, it gets dry as hell out there, and then somebody flicks a cigarette into some dry grass, and boom, half of LA is on fire. It happened when I lived there. I wasn't doing it, though. I didn't do that. But others did that. So now thousands are fleeing as wildfire threatens homes in California's Malibu. Look at all that, man. It's just the air is so dry and everything dries up. A ferocious fire tore through Malibu on Tuesday, destroying homes and forcing thousands to evacuate, one of the most sought after areas in the United States. Yeah, a lot of rich people, celebrities live out in Malibu. Multi-million-dollar properties, some owned by Hollywood celebrities, were in the path of the blaze, which exploded overnight, fanned by powerful winds and tinder dry brush. Firefighters were struggling to get a foothold in the steep canyons that surround the Tony Enclave? What is that? Just outside L.A., where towering flames were devouring hillsides, blanketing the air in choking smoke. We were completely surrounded, one man who gave only his first name, Alec, told broadcaster KTLA about the fire that broke out late Monday night. That to do with the California voice. It was like 11 p.m., bro. We were hearing people screaming. I walk outside and like, bro, the sky is bright red. Whoa. I'm not doing that whole thing. Within 45 minutes, it's coming down the hillside, and then within an hour after that, we're fully surrounded. Houses burning down on one side, ridges burning on the other side, mountains all around us. It got pretty scary at one point. Around 2,000 buildings in the eastern half of Malibu were under a compulsory evacuation order. People living in another 6,000 properties in the city were being advised to leave. The safety of our community members are our number one priority, L.A. County Sheriff Robert Luna told reporters. Deputies had gone door to door urging people to get out as the flames began to spread on Monday. People described having only moments to flee as embers whipped up by the wind rained down around them. I think I'm in shock right now, Malibu City Council member Bruce Silverstein told the LA Times. Silverstein said he and his wife had packed their bags and fled to a Santa Monica hotel from where they had watched the progress of the fire on the internet-connected cameras around the property, I'm assuming before they melted. My house has come very close to catching fire multiple times in the last couple of hours, but had been doused by firefighters. We thought it was completely under control. Then a bunch of embers came flying into the yard. Actor Dick Van Dyke, who celebrates his 99th birthday this Friday, posted on Facebook that he and his wife had fled their Malibu home. He said, apparently he said 8 was enough. Arlene and I have safely evacuated with our animals, except for a cat that escaped as we were leaving. We're praying he'll be okay and that our community in Sarah Retreat will survive these terrible fires. By Tuesday afternoon, the fire had swelled to more than 2,600 acres and was still raging out of control, with the National Weather Service posting a high danger red flag warning because of powerful winds. More than 700 firefighters were battling the blaze, aided by a fleet of water and retardant-dropping aircraft, including super scoopers and tankers capable of dumping 1,200 gallons of retardant at a time. No jokes, please. Tens of thousands of people across Southern California had their electricity cut off. Utilities frequently de-energized lines ahead of windy days to reduce the fire risk from downed power lines. California Governor Gavin Newsom said the state had already secured a fire management assistant grant from the federal from FEMA to assist with the response. Fire officials and first responders are working relentlessly to protect lives and property from the Franklin fire, Newsom said in a statement. California is grateful for this federal support, which bolsters these efforts. I urge all residents in affected areas to stay alert and follow evacuation orders. Wildfires are a feature of life in California, as we said, and other parts of the U.S. West, and are often exacerbated at this time of year by the Santa Ana winds, which blow dry desert air from the interior. And this isn't some slight breeze either. The Santa Anas will kick up some, pretty close to tropical storm type winds, if he catches the right, goes through a valley and gets, all that physics stuff. Human-caused climate change is known to increase the likelihood and the severity of fires, with evolving weather patterns leading to longer, hotter, drier periods that desiccate vegetation. Ooh, look at you, fancy. Somebody got out the thesaurus. Experts say decades of policy stressing a zero-tolerance approach to wildfires have also left much of the countryside overstocked with flammable materials. So when blazes erupt, they tend to be faster, hotter, and more destructive. Yeah, so that's crazy shit. Like I said, I lived in the hills. One of the places I lived there, at the foot of the Hollywood Hills. And they had one of those big fires, and it was on the other side of the mountains there in the valley, where they call it North Hollywood, that area. So on that side of the mountains, it was crazy. You remember Peter Fonda talking about the Santa Ana winds in the movie Escape from L.A. Hell yeah. Although Escape from New York is Escape from L.A. If you can't get New York, try L.A. So that's all. That's our U.S. roundup. And of course, we take a look at Syria. Syria gone cray-cray, but they seem to be stabling out somewhat. HTS appointed Syrian Prime Minister begins work on transitional government with a March deadline. And this is the temporary Prime Minister right here. HTS appointed interim Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir has been tasked with establishing a transitional government following the swift collapse of President Bashar al-Assad's government in Damascus over the weekend. The General Command has tasked us with running the transitional government until March 1st, said a statement attributed to Bashir on state television's Telegram account. The statement referred to Bashir as the new Syrian prime minister. Representatives of the Syrian Salvation Government, which ruled Idlib governorate after it was conquered by HTS in 2015, met with representatives of the overthrown government in the Council of Ministers in Damascus on Monday to discuss forming the new interim administration. Bashir said that identical ministries, directorates, and institutions in Idlib and Damascus, such as the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Endowments, will be merged. Former Syrian Prime Minister Mohammed Ghazi al-Jalali said that he and a number of ministers were still in the country and had made contacts with the leadership of HTS to assist with the transition. A Syrian engineer and politician, Bashir served as prime minister of the Syrian Salvation Government from January 2024 until his new appointment Tuesday. He was born in the Jabal Zawiya region of Idlib in the mid-1980s, he's a millennial, oh God, studied electrical engineering at the University of Aleppo and holds a degree in Sharia and law from the University of Idlib. Bashir worked as the head of the Precision Instruments Department at the Syrian Gas Company before joining the National Salvation Government in Idlib in 2021. He served as a member of Development and Humanitarian Affairs until the government's Shura Council elected Bashir as its prime minister in January this year. Militants from HTS took over Damascus on Saturday in a lightning 2-week campaign in which the army was ordered to withdraw rather than stand and fight. HTS leader Abu Muhammad al-Jilani, a former ISIS commander under ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, entered the capital on Sunday. And as you know, Assad left the country. He's been given asylum in Russia. So that is the new person in charge right now, at least on an interim basis, this guy right here. And so we'll just have to see what happens. But it's not just the fact that the country fell. It's who helped it fall, and why didn't the military do anything? Those are a lot of questions. The one theory is the military wasn't getting paid, and al-Assad wasn't taking care of not only the government people but the people in the streets, and and there we are. So now people are starting to. People who were refugees are starting to make their way back, particularly from Turkey, as hundreds of Syrian refugees in Turkey begin returning home following Assad regime change. Here we go. Hundreds of Syrian refugees gathered at 2 border crossings in southern Turkey on Monday as they attempted to make their return home following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime. Videos shared on social media showed the refugees waiting at the Silvegozu and Onkupinar border gates on Monday, which correspond to the Bab al-Hawa and Bab al-Salame gates on the Syrian side of the border. Many arrived with their belongings and were draped in blankets and coats. Others camped by border barriers, warming themselves with makeshift fires. One Syrian interviewed by Turkish media said that he was very happy that he was able to return to his homeland, and went on to thank Turkey for hosting him as a refugee. As soon as I heard Assad was gone, I became happy. I leave him now in the hands of God. Turkish officials have not said how many Syrians have returned since Assad's downfall. Authorities set up a checkpoint some 5 kilometers or 3 miles from Silvegozu, only allowing Syrians with proper documents to the border gate, Haberturk television reported. Assad's fall has sparked widespread joy among Turkey's 3 million Syrian refugees, with many taken to the streets of Istanbul and other cities to celebrate. On Sunday, Syrians also removed the Syrian government's flag from the Syrian consulate in Istanbul, replacing it with the opposition's flag. Other refugees who have yet to make a move towards Syria said they will do so in the near future. Hussein Barghouti told the New Arab's Arabic language site Al-Arabi Al-Jadid that as soon as the liberation of Sarakib was announced, he began to gather his belongings to return to his hometown of Abu al-Duhur. I will return immediately after the end of the school year and liquidate my household assets. Even though my situation in Turkey is comfortable, my income is reasonable, and I have no problem with my legal status. We have witnessed some racism in recent years, but Turkey has been like a second home, and since we arrived as refugees 8 years ago, we have not faced any significant problems. Another Syrian national in Turkey, Batul Ahmed, told Al-Arabi Al-Jadid, as soon as Turkey clarifies the form of legal exit for refugees, I will return from Istanbul, not Constantinople. It's nobody's business but the Turks. With my husband and children to live in Aleppo, we have not decided on a date for our return yet, but the option of returning is settled after the asylum period is extended for 6 years. Turkey welcomed Syrian refugees in the early years of the Syrian civil war that broke out in 2011, becoming host to the largest number of refugees in the world. But as Turkey faced economic challenges, public opinion toward the refugees soured, and Syrians soon found themselves used as scapegoats amid Turkey's social challenges. Many politicians have gone on to call for their deportation and made promises to expel them should they come to power during presidential elections. Over the years, thousands of Syrian refugees have returned from Turkey under a voluntary return plan, which President Recep Tayyip Erdogan promised to uphold following his presidential election win last year. Turkish officials now hope that a significant number of Syrians will return voluntarily. We will continue our efforts to ensure the safe and voluntary return of Syrians and to rebuild the country, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said Monday at Silvegozu. Some refugees wheeled their suitcases while others carried belongings in sacks. Zakaria Mori al-Shami, who arrived in Turkey in 2019, was waiting to cross the border with his wife and 2 children to return to Aleppo. He hopes to rebuild his home, which was destroyed during the conflict. We said, we came here because there was a war. Now the war is over and we're going back, he said. Hundreds of displaced Syrians were also returning on Monday from Lebanon, with dozens of cars lining up to enter. Lebanese residents on Sunday handed out congratulatory sweets to Syrians waiting to go back to their country. I want some congratulatory sweets. Despite the joy at being able to return, some Syrian refugees are more apprehensive as the country's future remains uncertain due to the transitionary period it is currently witnessing. Yeah, they're kind of like saying, well, you may not want to come back just yet. We're not quite settled in yet. Poet and media figure Yasser al-Atrash told Al-Arabi that Syrians face enormous tasks after regaining their country. We are facing a country with an exhausted social structure, with generations of fighters, illiterate people, and children who were born and raised in displacement camps and do not know the meaning of homeland. People are thinking about returning with their own plans, which is logical and natural. The greater task remains entrusted to those working in the public sector, from intellectuals, economists, politicians, and elites. The responsibility of treating society and working on its recovery lies on their shoulders. So people starting to make their way back to the thing. I don't know what I'm saying. You know, the thing, the guy with the thing and the person. Yeah, so I would, if I was a Syrian, I would probably wait a little bit, just to see, who the hell's going to be running the show. But meanwhile, in the UK, they say no basis for Syrians to make asylum claims after Assad's fall. So people that are coming from Syria now looking for asylum, they're like, no. Wait, we just saw this picture, didn't we? I think we did. The UK government has announced it is suspending all Syrian asylum claims just a day after the Assad dynasty was toppled in Syria. There are around 30,000 Syrian nationals living in the UK, a relatively small amount compared with many European countries. The government's decision to pause asylum claims followed the same decisions by Germany, which has taken in nearly 1 million Syrians fleeing the country's war, and other European countries, including Greece, Sweden, Italy, the Netherlands, and Belgium. Austria, meanwhile, has announced it is beginning a program, look at that program, that European program, of orderly repatriation and deportation to Syria. In the UK, there are currently around 6,500 asylum claims by Syrians, all of which have been paused. Angela Eagle, Minister for Border Security and Asylum, told Sky News on Tuesday morning, the main reason people claim asylum from Israel is that they were fleeing from the brutal Assad regime, which has just collapsed before our eyes. She added that there's no basis at the moment to make asylum claims, saying we can't measure any decision against a factual reality at the moment. So we're going to pause and let things play out a bit and see what happens, see what then happens, because we don't have the criteria to make a decision given the rapidly changing situation. When it was put to Eagle that Syria is now being run by HTS, which the British government has designated a terrorist organization, she replied, well, it's not being run yet. The minister added, we don't really know what kind of regime or system will come out of the chaos that we've seen. We do welcome the fact that the Assad regime, which was brutal, has gone. That's good. But what replaces it is not yet clear, and that is why we have to pause asylum claims and wait to see what happens. Syria is still a state of conflict, many commentators say. According to the Syrian Observation of Human Rights, SOAR, Israel has carried out 300 strikes across the country since Sunday. We'll tell you about that in a second. So this comes after Foreign Secretary David Lammy warned Parliament on Monday that the flow of refugees returning to Syria could quickly become a flow back out and potentially increase the numbers using dangerous illegal migration routes to continental Europe and the UK. Shadow Foreign Secretary, that sounds very dubious. Priti Patel suggested that Britain was at risk from terrorist fighters arriving from Syria, a point which Lammy conceded. Meanwhile, there's been confusion over whether the UK is reevaluating its designation of HTS as a terror organization. On Monday morning, Government Minister Pat McFadden said Britain would consider delisting the group in the days to come. The leader of that group has distanced himself away from some of the things that have been said in the past, McFadden told the BBC's Today programme. He is saying some of the right things about the protection of minorities, about protecting people's rights. However, Prime Minister Keir Starmer later rode back on this position, insisting there was no decision pending at all and that it is far too early. HTS is listed by the UK's Home Office as an alternative name for Al-Qaeda, but in 2016, HTS leader Abu Mohammed al-Jalani publicly broke with Al-Qaeda and has since then pledged protection for minorities and to respect Syria's diversity. Diversity! That's what it's all about. Right. Yeah, and as we said, Israel has been taking advantage of this too. And Hezbollah is calling them out on their bullshit, as it were. So Hezbollah condemns Israeli aggression on Syria, calls for unity. Hezbollah issued a statement yesterday condemning Israel's recent actions in Syria, describing them as dangerous and severely condemned aggression. The statement called on the UN Security Council, the international community, and Arab and Islamic nations to reject and end the occupation of Syrian territories and protect the Syrian people during the critical juncture in their history. The statement reiterated Hezbollah's long-standing warnings against Israeli ambitions in the region and emphasized its resistance efforts to prevent the occupation from achieving its goals. It linked the aggression of Gaza to the war of extermination aimed at reshaping the region and erasing the Palestinian cause. Hezbollah criticized the international silence, particularly from Arab and Islamic nations, regarding the ongoing aggression on Syria. It also condemned the unlimited American support for these actions and the lack of practical measures to counter Israeli aggression or support the Palestinian people's legitimate rights. The statement urged decisive steps to prevent the Israeli occupation from achieving its objectives, stressing that the aggression on Syria and its people should not be met with silence. What is happening in Syria today, both at the popular and political levels and the resulting internal and external political choices, is exclusively the right of the Syrian people, free from external influences and pressure, the statement asserted. Well, you might be saying, well, what the fuck is Israel doing? What are you talking about there, Chief? They're trying to take land from Syria. That's exactly what they're doing. And looks like they're kind of inching their way towards the capital, Damascus. So Israel tanks reach the outskirts of the capital city of Syria. Lebanon's Al Mayadeen television network reported yesterday that the Israeli tanks have moved past the southwestern Syrian city of Quneitra and reached 3 kilometers away from the town of Katana near Damascus. Israel started the push to expand its occupation of Syria on Sunday after foreign-backed terrorists led by HTS announced the fall of Syrian President Bashar. Israeli forces seized the buffer zone that separates the occupied Golan Heights from the rest of Syria in violation of a 1974 disengagement agreement between the Tel Aviv regime and Syria. That's according to Press TV. They also captured the strategic Mount Hermon in Golan, which provides high ground for the entire area. I think it's the highest point in Syria. Is fuckhead? What the hell was that? I shouldn't have said fuckhead, I guess. All right, fuckface Benjamin Netanyahu claimed that the Syrian Golan Heights will remain part of the occupied territories for eternity. Israel's exploitation of the current chaotic situation to deploy its occupation forces to Syria has drawn condemnations from regional countries. Yeah, so. And that was, and you know, people who have been analyzing this, what's been going on, say, of course, Israel's going to try and sneak a peekaloo in there and try and get some shit. And even after Assad fell, they were still bombing the fuck out of Syria. This is from Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. Be sure you check it out, antiwar.com, if you're looking for aggregated news sources, their own news sources as well. It's really well put together place, nuts and bolts. If you just want plain news outside of the mainstream media, antiwar.com is the place to go. I don't work for them. I'm just a fan. Israel says it launched 480 strikes into Syria since the fall of Assad. The Israeli military said Tuesday that it launched 480 strikes in Syria over 48 hours following the overthrow of former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, which Israeli media said marked the heaviest Israeli bombing of Syria in history. The IDF said it struck most of the strategic weapons stockpiles in Syria and estimated it destroyed between 70% to 80% of the former government's weapons. That's very important. So most of their stockpiles, Syria's stockpiles. So Israel's trying to weaken Syria to where whoever is going to be in government is just going to be a bitch to them. In a nutshell, Israeli strikes hit targets across Syria, including the port of Latakia, which destroyed naval vessels. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the Israeli bombing campaign destroyed the most important military sites in Syria, including Syrian airports and their warehouses, aircraft squadrons, radars, military signal stations, and many weapons and ammunition depots in various locations in most Syrian governorates. Hey, Kate, what's going on? Hanging out on the Rock Fiend. Israel has also seized territory inside Syria. We said the buffer zone separating the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights from the rest of Syria and several areas beyond the zone. Sources told Reuters Israeli forces advanced 10 kilometers into Syrian territory and were only 25 kilometers away from Damascus. Israeli sources denied that Israeli troops advanced that far into Syria, but also announced they were creating a sterile defense zone in southern Syria, framing the occupation as temporary. The U.S. has backed Israel's land grab in Syria, also claiming it was a defensive move. Of course it is. It's all self-defense. And everybody's Hamas or Hezbollah. Together with the Prime Minister, I have instructed the military to establish a sterile defense zone free of weapons and terrorist threats in southern Syria without a permanent Israeli presence, said Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claimed Israel doesn't seek to interfere in Syria's internal affairs despite the massive bombing campaign and land grab. Yeah, they don't care about your internal affairs as long as we get to get the land. He also threatened that Israel would take more action if the new government aligned with Iran. If the new regime in Syria allows Iran to reestablish itself or allows the transfer of Iranian weapons to Hezbollah, we will respond forcefully and we will exact a heavy price. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, that's what Fuckhead said. The Israeli leader previously took credit for the overthrow of Assad by HTS and celebrated the regime change. The Assad regime is a central link in Iran's axis of evil. This regime has fallen. La 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 la. Yeah, so BB's got to chime in there. This is so weird. I like to have my little touchies. I don't have my touchpad thing. I'm doing this manually like a commoner. Ew! Ew, I smell poor people. Sorry, what happened? But, you know, of course, that's Syria, and they can't forget about their favorite whipping post, Gaza, though. Relentless Israeli strikes will kill entire Palestinian families in Gaza as officials warn of siege starvation policy. Dozens of people were killed across Gaza in the last 24 hours as the Strip's government media office warned on December 10th that Israel is implementing a policy of starvation, siege, and violence against the enclave. At least 51 people have been killed in the Strip since Monday evening, according to medical sources cited by Al Jazeera. At least 25 were killed, including 2 entire families, in the early hours of December 10th, which was yesterday. When Israel bombed a house where they were sheltering in North Gaza's Beit Hanun. The Strip is facing a severe lack of humanitarian aid as border crossings remain shuttered. The occupation is perpetrating a policy of starvation against the residents of the Strip, especially in the north, by closing the crossings, the government media office statement said on Tuesday, adding that the occupation forces have closed all crossings of the Gaza Strip for more than 200 days. The UN and other international agencies have also recently said that Israel's siege is preventing the entry of aid. The statement added that Israeli troops have executed more than 1,000 doctors and nurses throughout the Strip. Hamas, they were all Hamas. Israeli troops have reportedly stormed hospitals in North Gaza and detained scores of medical staff, most recently in the besieged and nearly dysfunctional Kamal Adwan Hospital in the northern city of Jabalia, which has been ethnically cleansed of over 100,000 of its residents. Hundreds of bodies are scattered in the streets, the media office said. Israel is unofficially implementing what is known as the General's Plan. We've told you about that, which aims to expel or exterminate all remaining residents of the northern Gaza Strip. The strategy was devised by former Israeli General Giora Eiland. Last week, Israeli troops forcibly displaced thousands of Palestinian civilians from the last shelters in Gaza's northern city of Beit Lahia. Gaza's civil defense described Beit Lahia as uninhabitable. Yeah. So, and with the fall of Syria, it's not a good thing that, regardless of what you feel about Assad being there, it's just like in Iraq when we overthrew Saddam Hussein. And in this case, they're not leaving a power vacuum since HTS pretty much has been the strong man in all of this the whole time. So now I lost my train of thought. But it's not going to be the same power vacuum like it was in Iraq, where they I think they left the military intact. They left all the government functions intact this time in Syria. In Iraq, they took out everything. They took out the military. They took out everything and had these managers, these American managers come in and so at least it's not that kind of situation. Meanwhile, Bibi's got his own problems. He's trying to get out of court yesterday because, look, I'm trying to run a genocide here. I can't be in court. How can I run a genocide when I'm stuck here in court? And the court said, fuck off. You come into court. Israel's Netanyahu decries absurd charges of corruption trial appearance. Glavin. Netanyahu's taken the stand for the first time in his long-running corruption trial, rejecting what he described as absurd allegations against him. Appearing at a crowded courtroom in Tel Aviv yesterday, the embattled Israeli leader said the charges leveled against him were an ocean of absurdity. Ooh, it's time to get wet. Israel's longest-serving prime minister faces charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of public trust. In 3 separate cases, he has consistently denied any wrongdoing. He took the stand for about 4 hours and will resume testifying today. His military secretary twice handed him written messages, the first time requiring a recess and underscoring his having to do double duty as prime minister. He's not only am I a criminal piece of shit, I'm also prime minister. He attacked the Israeli media for what he called its leftist stance and accused journalists of having hounded him for years because his policies did not align with a push for a Palestinian state. I have been waiting for 8 years for this moment to tell the truth, which he was trying to get out of. He told the 3-judge court, but I am also a prime minister. I'm leading the country through a 7-front war, and I think the two can be done in parallel. Netanyahu's appearance at the trial comes as Israel continues its assault on the besieged Gaza Strip and Syria, too, amid soaring tensions in the region. Critics have accused the prime minister of extending Israel's 14-month assault on the besieged Gaza Strip to maintain his stay in power. They also say he is blocking a ceasefire deal that could release dozens of Israeli captives held in Gaza. Outside the court, dozens of protesters gathered, including members of the families of captives held in Gaza. Israel, and there are the numbers there. 44,500 people killed, mostly women and children, according to the Palestinian health authorities. Damn it. I'm so used to pushing buttons. This mouse shit's getting me on my nerves. Wait, what happened? Sorry. It's a little... We're about halfway through. Really? Oh, it's 11:11 here in the Central Time Zone. Make a wish. I wish I were a fish. Meanwhile, they're getting food poisoning. That's how they treat Palestinian prisoners. Palestinian detainees in Israeli prisons stricken with food poisoning from spoiled meals. Large number of Palestinian detainees in Israel's Etzion prison south of Bethlehem in the southern occupied West Bank are suffering from severe food poisoning after consuming spoiled food, a Palestinian prisoners' rights group said Monday. A lawyer for the Commission of Detainees Affairs, after visiting 9 prisons on Sunday at Etzion Detention Center, relayed that they had suffered poisoning after displaying similar symptoms following their meals, said the Palestinian Prisoners Society. This is not the first instance of poisoning in Etzion, as similar cases have been recorded multiple times over the past few years. Amani Sarana, the media coordinator for the Palestinian Prisoners Society, told Anadolu that Etzion serves as a temporary detention and investigation center where prisoners are later transferred to other facilities. It currently holds 111 detainees. She noted that the poisoned prisoners did not receive any medical treatment. The Commission of Detainees Affairs confirmed that a significant number of detainees under interrogation at Etzion suffered from poisoning due to spoiled food served to them by the prison administration. According to the commission, based on information provided by their lawyer who faced challenges visiting the detainees on Sunday, prisoners experienced severe abdominal pain, diarrhea, vomiting, weakness, fatigue, facial yellowing, significant fluid loss, and an inability to stand after consuming the meals. Many even fainted. Wow, that sounds like one of those drug commercials. Side effects may include severe abdominal pain, diarrhea, vomiting, weakness, fatigue, facial yellowing, death. The commission accused the prison administration of deliberately subjecting detainees to harsh punishment since the start of the Israeli assault on Gaza. This includes prolonged hunger, providing poor quality meals in both quantity and quality, and subjecting those who protest to severe beatings and solitary confinement. The commission called on all international organizations to intervene urgently to alleviate their suffering and ensure their protection in Israeli prisons. According to the commission and the Palestinian Prisoners Society, the total number of arrests in the West Bank since the beginning of the ongoing war on Gaza on October 7th of last year has exceeded 12,000. This includes dozens of Palestinian workers and thousands from Gaza, whose numbers have not yet been fully documented. Food poisoning. That's the last thing that those folks need over there. But yep, you know what? There it is. So you may be thinking, well, where's Yemen in all of this? Where in the world is Yemen? Where are the Houthis? Where's Houthi and the blowfish thingy? Damn it, no buttons. All right. Yemen launches new attacks on U.S. warships, Israeli military sites. It's a young man there with a missile. The Yemeni armed forces announced on yesterday a new round of attacks against U.S. warships and cargo vessels traversing regional waters. The naval, UAV, and missile forces of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a specific military operation targeting 3 American supply ships after they left the port of Djibouti, great name, and had previously practiced their aggression against Yemen. A statement from officials in Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, read, YAF drones and missiles also targeted 2 U.S. destroyers accompanying the supply ships in the Gulf of Aden. Alongside its latest attack on U.S. warships militarizing the Red Sea, Sana'a revealed its forces launched 2 military operations targeting military targets in Jaffa and Ashkelon, areas in occupied Palestine earlier on Tuesday. The Yemeni air forces continue to carry out their support operations for the Palestinian resistance and to carry out their defensive operations for beloved Yemen until the aggression stops and the siege on the Gaza Strip is lifted, the YAF statement highlights. Earlier this week, officials in the Ansarallah-led Yemeni government confirmed their nation's commitment to continue fighting Israel and its allies until the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza stops. Nothing matches our readiness for peace except our readiness for war, Hussein al-Azi, a member of Ansarallah's political bureau, said via social media on Sunday. According to Yemeni reports, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia recently presented an offer to Ansarallah for a deal that would end its relentless naval operations against Israeli maritime interests and Western warships. Riyadh and Washington are trying to exploit the developments witnessed in the region to pressure Sana'a to agree to proceed with the new agreement, reports in Arabic media said. We favor a diplomatic solution. We know that there is no military solution, U.S. Special Envoy for Yemen Timothy Lenderking said back in April, months before Sana'a forced several U.S. aircraft carriers and European warships out of West Asia. He said, get the fuck out. A Yemeni drone blasted into a penthouse in Israel's central Avni settlement on Sunday as Tel Aviv launched its ground invasion of southern Syria. It was the third consecutive day of Yemeni attacks against Israel. The Israeli Broadcasting Corporation reported this week that Tel Aviv is planning a major attack against Yemen. So Yemen's still hanging in there. Yemen said, we ain't no punk-ass bitches. We got you. Weapons. The Houthis are trying to keep weapons away from Israel. Meanwhile, Putin is putting more weapons in Belarus. Belarus, will you do the fandango? Lukashenko says Belarus is hosting dozens of Russian nuclear weapons. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko said on Tuesday that Belarus is hosting dozens of Russian nuclear weapons and is preparing to receive Russia's new intermediate-range hypersonic ballistic missile known as the Oreshnik. Djibouti, the girl is hard to get. Sorry. I have deployed nuclear warheads here, several dozen warheads. Many say that this is a joke and no one has deployed anything. Yes, we did, Lukashenko said. He kind of sounds like Trump there. I've deployed nuclear warheads here, several dozen warheads, all kinds of warheads. Everybody's talking about my warheads. Many said this is a joke and no one has deployed anything. Yes, we did. We sure did. I don't know if he's like Trump, but that sounded very Trump-esque. He's like, I got all kinds of warheads over there. And the fact that they say this is a joke means that they have missed it. They overlooked how we brought them here, Lukashenko added, suggesting he believes Western intelligence agencies didn't track the deployment. Putin first announced in 2023 that he would deploy nuclear weapons to Belarus, a move he said was in response to Western provocations. He has compared the deployment of NATO's nuclear sharing program, under which U.S. nuclear warheads are deployed in Germany, the Netherlands, Italy, Belgium, and Turkey. Belarus has received nuclear-capable Iskander missiles, and the Russian military helped upgrade Belarusian fighter jets so they could carry nuclear warheads. Lukashenko is now asking for Russia to deploy the Oreshnik missile to Belarus and said there are about 30 locations where they could be stationed. We're currently thinking about where to deploy this weapon. We have some sites where strategic nuclear weapons used to be deployed. Russia fired an Oreshnik missile into Ukraine in November after Ukrainian forces fired U.S. and British missiles into Russian territory. Initial reports said the missile was nuclear capable, but Russian media said Moscow plans to deploy a non-nuclear version. The Oreshnik that was fired into Ukraine was believed not to be carrying any explosives since it did little damage. Putin has said a conventionally armed Oreshnik could make nuclear weapons unnecessary since it can carry out such a large payload and fire multiple weapons. Yeah. So, wild stuff there. And all the pieces of the chessboard are starting to be played, right? Are starting to be put into place. Ghost Star, what's up? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And the Middle East is part of this too, because Russia has an interest in the Middle East. Well, they did with Syria. Now it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens next. So, which one is this? Did I do this one already? Come on. Okay, we already did that one. Okay, good. So, and as Putin just said, he's hoping that these missiles will eliminate the need for nuclear weapons. They're super fast. It's with defense systems. It's hard to knock these missiles down because they travel so fast. Once there is a sufficient amount of Oreshnik missiles, Russia will no longer consider the use of nuclear weapons, President Vladimir Putin said, addressing a meeting of the Council on Civil Society and Human Rights. We are improving our nuclear doctrine, not tightening it. Basically, now we need to improve the Oreshnik missile, not the nuclear doctrine, Putin noted. If we take a closer look, a sufficient amount of these cutting-edge weapon systems will actually eliminate the need for the use of nuclear weapons. This is why, in Putin's words, Russia behaves with caution and even restraint in all areas. However, the government shows its will where it is necessary, as well as the country's people who live here, who want their children to live here, who see Russia as their motherland and are ready to do everything to make it stronger, Putin concluded. So, yeah, and I guess that's good, but I mean, at the same time, a weapon is a weapon, right? I mean, if you would rather have conventional weapons. If you're going to have weapons, you'd rather have conventional weapons than nuclear, because at least with conventional weapons, you don't run the risk of, blowing up an entire city or the coast of a country. But those Russians, they're very sneaky, with the embargoes against them. They're still managing to make money off of their oil, and Russian military suppliers are exploiting loopholes in the U.S. microchip embargo. Mm-hmm. Despite sanctions, the Russian military continues to gain access to U.S.-made microchips for its defense systems as suppliers continue to exploit a loophole in acquiring this critical technology. This was revealed in a cache of internal documents obtained by Bloomberg amid reports of American-made semiconductors being discovered in captured Russian weapons. The leaked record suggests that Russian distributors have integrated Texas Instruments' online store into their trading platforms. Texas Instrument. Yes, we love Texas Instrument. Please do send us free calculators. Online store in their trading platforms, enabling Russian customers to view stock availability and place orders. Texas Instruments is a leading microchip manufacturer in the U.S., headquartered in Dallas. Down there in Dallas, Russian military suppliers are reportedly circumventing sanctions by routing orders through intermediaries outside Russia using websites like GetChips and AltChips. And, but not the I'm in the chips. That's a different website. The Bloomberg report explains that Russian distributors may have gained access to TI's application programming interface, which enables software to communicate and exchange data. Through this compromised interface, one Russian distributor processed over 4,000 orders between August of last year and this year, accounting for hundreds of thousands of microchips worth an estimated $6 million. Ooh, they could make a bionic man out of that. Of those, nearly $4 million worth of microchips were destined for Russian military companies, but were routed through Hong Kong and other countries to bypass sanctions. Reports of Russia's continued access to U.S.-made semiconductors surfaced in 2022 following its invasion of Russia. Ukrainian intelligence highlighted that microchips from companies like Intel, Micron Technology, Amtel Corp, and Microl were found in Russian military equipment such as command post vehicles. Recent investigations have identified more suppliers, including Analog Devices, Texas Instruments, and AMD. And Texas Instruments had yet to comment on the alleged loophole. They're like, man, we ain't do nothing. Shit. Ding. Come on, man. Just because cowboys suck don't mean you got to be all picking on us and shit. They're also telling, Russia's also telling their people, don't go to the United States. Jessica Mai, hello. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to our fun little fun fest here. So Russia tells citizens not to travel to the U.S. I think our buddy Fee is coming over here. Fiorella. She said she was going to come to the United States sometime. This was a little while back, so I don't know if she did or not, but be safe, be safe, be safe, be safe. So, Russia has warned its citizens not to travel to the U.S. and other Western countries, claiming they could be hunted by the authorities in those states. Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokeswoman and future ex-wife of mine, Maria Zakharova, issued the warning in a news briefing today, saying Russians could be caught in the crosshairs of perilous relations with the U.S. Trips to the United States of America privately or out of official necessity are fraught with serious risks, she said, describing U.S.-Russia relations as on the verge of rupture. Russians could also avoid traveling to Canada and U.S. allies in the European Union, said Zakharova, describing those nations as U.S. satellites. The U.S. also advises its citizens against traveling to Russia, saying they may face harassment or detention by Russian security officials or arbitrary enforcement of local laws based on their nationality. I don't know. I think I'd be all right. I'm actually part Russian. I have I think like 1/8 or 1/8 Russian. My great grandmother was, she fled the Russian Revolution to England. I met my grandpappy there on my mom's side. Anonymous evening. Oh, that's right. It is evening where you're at. So good evening to you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. We're just doing a little newsies thing. Meanwhile, in Africa, they are trying to squash protesters there. Police using tear gas on Kenya protesters rallying against femicide. That is the murder of women, if you didn't know that. Police in Kenya have used tear gas to disperse hundreds of people who gathered to protest against gender-based violence and femicide. Protesters blew whistles and chanted, "Stop killing women," as they marched in the capital, Nairobi, yesterday, and police repeatedly dispersed the crowds. The rally gathered pace as hundreds of women marched towards Parliament, with many chanting, "Shame on you, teach your sons." At least 3 people were arrested, the Reuters news agency reported. Protests in Nairobi were peaceful, and it was not immediately clear why the police intervened, because all cops are bad. Remember, all cops are bad. There was no immediate comment from the police. Protests also took place in the cities of Mombasa and Lodwar, according to videos posted on social media. Among those arrested in Nairobi was Irungu Houghton, executive director of Amnesty International Kenya. Amnesty International and the Law Society of Kenya released a joint statement condemning the police action, saying it sent a chilling message to peaceful protesters. The violent response by police, including the arrest of these peaceful protesters, is a direct attack on Kenya's democratic principles and the human rights of its citizens, the statement said. One activist, Wikali Muni, told the AP that she suffered a neck injury at the hands of police officers. "It's very sad that I was injured while championing for women not to be injured or killed. If the president is serious about ending femicide, let him start by taking action on the officers who have brutalized us today," she said. Last month, President William Ruto committed more than $700,000 for a campaign to end femicide. Following the publication of a report by the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights in November, Ruto labeled gender-based violence tragic and unacceptable. For years, Kenya has experienced an epidemic of gender-based violence. Between August and October, at least 97 women in Kenya were killed in femicides, according to the National Police Service. The police do not provide statistics for earlier periods, but according to figures compiled by the Africa Data Hub, there were at least 75 femicides in 2022 and 46 the year before. According to Kenyan charity, the Gender Violence Recovery Center, 1 in 3 Kenyan women have been abused by the age of 18. Acts of abuse mainly come from intimate male partners or male family members, Patriarchal views and insufficient legal protections are major factors behind Kenya's high levels of gender-based violence, researchers say. Police in Kenya have also faced criticism for their actions during anti-government protests when at least 60 people were killed in June and July. Yeah, so when you protest, hey, what's up, man? What's up, Cowboy Kitty? So yeah, when you protest the murder of women, when you protest genocide, you know, the cops come a-calling because ACAB, you know what that means. Meanwhile, in South Korea, you know, all that turmoil that's going on there with their president, South Korean parliament passes a bill seeking council probe of Yoon, the president. Look at these. See? South Korea's opposition-controlled parliament has passed a bill that seeks to appoint a special counsel to investigate President Yoon Suk Yeol over the failed martial law attempt as the governing party discussed his potential resignation in the coming months. The bill passed yesterday requests the appointment of a special prosecutor to determine the truth about the internal rebellion through the unconstitutional declaration of martial law, according to the Yonhap news agency. At least 210 lawmakers voted in favor and 63 against, while 14 members abstained out of 287 who attended the session. The bill came after Yoon survived the first impeachment motion last week when the 300-seat parliament fell short of a quorum of 200 lawmakers. A widespread investigation was launched into the Yoon administration after he imposed martial law, only to be forced into reversing that decision by the country's parliament just hours later. The bill also calls for investigating other officials, including former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun and Army Chief of Staff General Park An-soo, Yonhap reported. So, yeah. These... You have, and then France too. Their government is still, still in flux, as it were, because they can't seem to get the left and the right together to form an actual government. So France is right there with you guys. So we turn our attention now to the Pacific. And fuckery afoot there, as Taiwan says it's tracking Chinese warships after Taiwanese president visited the U.S. Taiwan said that mainland China yesterday that mainland China deployed a large number of warships and planes around the island following Taiwanese President William Lai Ching-te's visit to the U.S. According to the South China Morning Post, Taiwan has monitored the most significant Chinese military activity in the area since China conducted a blockade drill around the island in October, which was a response to a speech from Lai. Taiwanese officials also said China had deployed a total of 90 naval and Coast Guard vessels stretching from the South China Sea to southern Japanese islands. The deployment is seen as an effort by China to show that it could not only blockade Taiwan, but also impede the U.S. and its allies in the region from intervening in any potential conflict. China typically announces when it conducts major military drills, but it has so far been silent on the current activity. Ooh, sneaky. When asked during a press briefing yesterday if China was conducting military exercises around Taiwan, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said, "I'd refer you to competent Chinese authorities for the specific question. What I can tell you is that the Taiwan question is China's internal affair, and China will firmly defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity." Taiwan was anticipating major Chinese drills after Lai visited Hawaii and Guam during a tour of the Pacific region. China has a history of launching major exercises in response to contacts between U.S. and Taiwanese officials, such as its first blockade drill that took place in August 2022 in response to then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visiting Taiwan. And to be fair, though, Pelosi was only there to get hammered. She heard they had some really good rice wine, and yeah, So that's why she was there. In recent months, China has stepped up its warnings to the U.S. as the Biden administration has approved several new arms deals for Taiwan and a package of U.S.-funded military aid. Chinese officials have repeatedly stated that the island is the first red line, oh, that red line, in U.S.-China relations that must not be crossed, but Washington has ignored Beijing's concerns. The U.S. is also openly planning for a future war with China by expanding its military footprint in the Asian Pacific and working to build anti-China alliances in the region. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, keyword hammered. Says, hey, I heard this place that's a good rice wine. Can we have some? Nancy, you drank on the plane over here. What the fuck is wrong with you? Back in Africa, France is starting to get out of Chad as it begins military withdrawal. France has initiated its military withdrawal from Chad, signaling a significant reduction of its involvement in the Sahel region. On Tuesday, 2 Mirage fighter jets departed the capital, N'Djamena, returning to their base in eastern France. French military spokesperson Colonel Guillaume Vernet confirmed the departure as the beginning of the return of French equipment stationed in N'Djamena, a French colony until its independence in 1960. Chad had maintained close ties with Paris, including the presence of French troops since the 1980s. N'Djamena served as the headquarters for France's anti-terrorism operations in the Sahel, as a mission that officially ended in 2022 after criticism of its effectiveness in combating jihadist insurgencies. In November, Chad ended its defense cooperation agreement with France, following the example of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, which severed ties with Paris after coups replaced their government. Yeah, I think I would too. It's like, you guys are bad luck. We don't want you around here. Finally, in our news block, I guess this is good news. It's a little scary, but if you're in Brazil, I know you're kind of keeping an eye on this too. So, Brazil's President Lula stable after brain emergency surgery. Brain surgery. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is in stable condition after undergoing emergency surgery for an intracranial hemorrhage, his doctors have said. Lula was rushed overnight yesterday to the hospital Sírio-Libanese in Sao Paulo after experiencing headaches that the president's medical team found were related to a fall he suffered in October. He's in stable condition, talking normally and eating. He will remain under observation for the next few days, Dr. Robert Khalil said during a news conference. Roberto Khalil. Presidential spokesperson Paulo Pimenta also said in a radio interview that Lula would likely remain in the intensive care unit for another 48 hours, with contact limited to his doctors. He's stable, conscious, and calm, Pimenta said. Lula, who was sworn in as president in early 2023, has curtailed travel in recent months after he suffered trauma to the back of his head when he fell at home in late October. The left-wing president hit his head after falling in a bathroom at the presidential residence in the capital, Brasilia, and received several stitches. I don't know, kind of like Bernie had that, remember when Bernie had that Band-Aid on his head at the DNC? And they said somebody talked to him with their fists. Yeah, so that's the news that's fit to print. As far as news concerns, we love some Tom Cotton around here. I say that tongue in cheek because he's an asshole and he's always trying to fuck with people, including the press. Yes, even the press.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things that are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
So once again, Tom Cotton blocks bill to shield journalists from betraying sources. Why? Because he's a fucking asshole. Republican U.S. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas yesterday again blocked the passage of House-approved bipartisan legislation meant to shield journalists and telecommunications companies from being compelled to disclose sources and other information to federal authorities. Senator Ron Wyden brought the Protect Reporters from Exploitative State Spying Act, or the PRESS Act, which would prohibit the federal government from forcing journalists and telecom companies to disclose certain information, with exceptions for terroristic or violent threats, for a unanimous consent vote. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer argued Tuesday that passing the PRESS Act is more important now than ever before, when we've heard some in the previous administration talk about going after the press in one way or another, a reference to Trump's threats to jail journalists who refuse to reveal the sources of leaks. Trump, who has referred to the press as the enemy of the people, repeatedly urged Senate Republicans to kill this bill. Cotton, who blocked a vote on the legislation in December 2022, again objected to the bill, a move that thwarted its speedy passage. The Republican called the legislation a threat to national security and the biggest giveaway to the liberal press in American history. Protecting sources is a threat to national security. It is. It's a threat to the security of the evil assholes running this joint. The advocacy group Defending Rights and Dissent lamented that Congress has abdicated their responsibility to take substantive steps to protect the constitutional right to a free press. However, Seth Stern, director of advocacy at the Freedom of the Press Foundation, noted ways in which Senate Democrats can still pass the Press Act before Republicans gain control of the upper chamber next month. Senate Democrats had all year to move this bipartisan bill, and now time is running out. Leader Schumer needs to get the Press Act into law, whether by attaching it to a year-end legislative package or bringing it to the floor on its own, even if it means shortening lawmakers' holiday break. Oh, going to shorten their break. Hopefully today was a preview of more meaningful action to come. I'm assuming that's from Seth Stern. Responding to Tuesday's setback, Wyden vowed, "I'm not taking my foot off the gas. I'll keep trying to get this bill across the finish line to write much needed protections for journalists and their sources into black letter law," he added. Yes. Oh, hello again, Go Start. The YouTube version of Go Start. Threat to national cover-ups. Yeah. Threat to national bullshit. Oh, you got bored on Rumble? I know, Rumble's not exactly a hip-hop place. Chuck the UFO is over there, though. Yeah, so... Tom Cotton is just a piece of shit. He is always doing stuff to stymie any sort of real progress. I'm not talking about bullshit, lip service progress. I'm talking about the real shit. Greenpeace scores a win against Shell, if you're into that sort of thing. People Power Works, Shell backs down in anti-protest lawsuit against Greenpeace. The UK-based oil giant Shell agreed yesterday to settle a major lawsuit the company brought against Greenpeace after activists from the group boarded and occupied a company oil platform last year to protest fossil fuel expansion. Greenpeace said in a statement that as part of the settlement, it agreed to donate £300,000, roughly 382,000 American, to the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, a charity that helps save lives at sea, but will pay nothing to Shell and accept no liability. The donation represents a fraction of the over $11 million in damages and legal costs defendants face, the group said. The Greenpeace defendants have also agreed to avoid protesting for a period at 4 Shell sites in the northern North Sea. Shell thought suing us for millions over a peaceful protest would intimidate us, but this case became a PR millstone tied around its neck. I mean, something heavy, said Ariba Hamed, co-executive director of Greenpeace UK. The public backlash against its bullying tactics made it back down and settle out of court. This settlement shows that people power works. Thousands of ordinary people across the country backed our fight against Shell, and their support means we stay independent and can keep holding big oil to account, Hamed added. This legal battle might be over, but big oil's dirty tricks aren't going away. With Greenpeace facing further legal battles around the world, we won't stop campaigning until the fossil fuel industry stops drilling and starts paying for the damage it's causing to the people on the planet. Shell brought the case, which Greenpeace characterized as a textbook strategic lawsuit against public participation, SLAP, in February 2023 and sought $1 million in damages from activists who boarded a Shell-contracted ship carrying equipment to drill for oil in the North Sea. When the protest ended, the only damage Shell could find was a padlock, which they alleged our activists broke. That's it, Greenpeace UK said. Yet they came after us with a $1 million lawsuit, which they justified for their spending on safety. Yeah, they were trying to scare them away, but it's Greenpeace. You don't scare those people. Those people are crazy. They'll come up to your boat in their boat. Slap. Ouch. The group, which warned that the case had dire implications for the right to protest, credited a sustained year-long campaign against the suit for forcing the oil behemoth to back down. The campaign, according to Greenpeace, turned the legal move into a PR embarrassment for Shell. The case was dubbed the Cousin Greg lawsuit by Forbes after a scene in the Emmy-winning drama Succession, in which the hapless character threatens to sue Greenpeace to universal dismay, the environmental group noted Tuesday. Greenpeace is currently facing several other SLAP suits, including one brought by Energy Transfer, majority owner of the Dakota Access Pipeline. The group said Tuesday that the Energy Transfer suit threatens the very existence of Greenpeace in the U.S. These aggressive legal tactics, the huge sums of money and attempts to block the right to protect, pose a massive threat. It could stop Greenpeace being able to make a real difference on the things that matter most, the organization said. It's part of a growing trend by powerful corporations and governments to crush peaceful protests using draconian laws or intimidation lawsuits like this. It seeks to silence the people most impacted by the climate crisis. This threatens the global fight for climate justice, the group added. We won't give up. This is Shell versus all of us, right? And, you're not going to get the proper, like, pitchforks and torches like you would for insurance, like medical insurance companies, because medical insurance hits home a lot closer than oil, unless you're talking about the price of gas. But, I don't think anybody's gonna cap an oil CEO over high gas prices. But I'm not saying. I'm just putting that out there. But people's patience are growing thin, y'all. This is a powder keg that's about to pop off. It's just be aware that it's happening. I know most of you who watch this show know, but tell your friends, look, the real shit's coming, and some of these people are just not ready for that to happen. So, meanwhile, research shows structural systematic bias in UK media coverage of Muslims. A newly published research on Tuesday shed light on widespread anti-Muslim bias in British media, with GB News accounted for half of UK news channels' coverage about Muslims and Islam, much of it with negative portrayals, Anadolu Agency reports. That is a media agency out of Turkey, by the way. Following a 2-year analysis, the research produced by the Center for Media Monitoring showed structural and systemic bias in GB News reporting about British Muslims. According to the report, the channel's coverage is excessive focus on Muslims, bordering on an obsession that regularly demonizes their beliefs. Stories about Islam are overwhelmingly negative and fail to understand the diverse nature of Muslim communities in the UK, the report suggested. The finding revealed that GB News mentioned Muslims or Islam more than 17,000 times in its output, accounting for almost 50% of total mentions on UK news channels. BBC News and Sky News accounted for 32% and 21% respectively. saying that Islamophobia has been referenced on GB News on 1,180 occasions, accounting for 60% of all mentions when compared with BBC News and Sky News. However, it noted that GB News stories overwhelmingly are geared towards rubbishing the concept of Islamophobia. The study showed that during the summer riots, GB News accounted for 62% of all clips on UK news channels that associated Muslims with the riots. It stated that this figure was the most of any news channel and 3 times as many as featured on BBC News or Sky News. The far-right riots broke out across the UK following a stabbing incident in Southport on July 29th. The violent disorder was fueled by false online claims that the suspect in the fatal stabbing of 3 children in Southport was a Muslim asylum seeker. The attacker, identified as Axel Rudakubana, I can't believe I said that name right. Axel Rudakubana, that's a cool name. Rudakubana! A 17-year-old from Cardiff with Rwandan parents has done little to deter the far-right mobs. GB News repeatedly framed Muslims as perpetrators rather than victims of violence, downplaying attacks on mosques and Muslim communities, contributing to a biased narrative. The CFMM report mentioned risks inciting violence and discrimination against Muslim communities and may have contributed to the toxic atmosphere surrounding last summer's riots. The channel also rarely features Muslim perspectives, often fails to challenge Islamophobic remarks, and portrays Muslims as a Trojan horse seeking to undermine British values, according to the study. Mentioning that the analysis compares GB News coverage of events concerning Muslim and Islam with the more balanced and far less negative approach of mainstream TV channels like BBC News and Sky News, the analysis concluded that GB News hates Islam and Muslims. You think? The CFMM report also asked Ofcom, the UK's communication regulator, takes a much more robust approach to the broadcasting of biased content that misinforms viewers, divides communities, and may encourage violence and disorder. GB News denied the findings of inaccurate and defamatory report, claiming that it is nothing more than a cynical, self-serving attempt to silence free speech. It provides exactly why a news organization like GB News needs to exist and why it's succeeding, said a spokesperson for GB News. Yeah. There you go. So, and that's also, we already did that one. Okay. So, and anything like this that comes down, you're going to hear, you probably already are hearing a lot of propaganda about Syria now, right? And what's going to happen with Syria. What's up, Miguel? Good to see you, buddy. What's going to happen? Right? What's going to happen over there? So let this be one of those things where, don't trust the mainstream media on stuff like this. Don't listen to any of their opinions or anything like that. If you're listening to mainstream media opinions, that's half of the battle that you've already lost, right? But, just pay attention, keep watching shows like this, and we'll keep you informed. Because finally, we have a story. It's a little bit sad, but I'll let you be the judge of that. I love me some chocolate, ladies. I do love chocolate, but I don't like it on the highway, if you know what I'm saying. Maybe don't. Truck fire covers California highway in melted chocolate. Noms. Look at that's the whee. Chocolate burning. A California highway is left in a sweet and sticky state. Giggity, giggity, goo, giggity, goo, 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 giggity, goo, giggity, goo, 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 goo. After a truck fire caused the roadway to become covered in more than 30,000 pounds of melted chocolate. All right. Damn right. You want that 30,000 pounds. That's 15 tons of sweet, sticky lovin'. The California Highway Patrol, or as we used to be called in the 70s, CHIPS, said firefighters were summoned to the scene on westbound Interstate 580 near Grantline Road in the Dublin area. Crews were able to extinguish the flames engulfing the truck, but firefighters soon discovered the vehicle's cargo, 30 to 40,000 pounds of chocolate, had melted and was spreading across the road. Delicious, delicious vengeance. The resulting cleanup operation lasted for several hours. Initial investigators indicated the cause of the fire was a mechanical issue with the truck's brakes. The driver was able to escape the truck and no injuries were reported. Turns out that he was also a sweet tooth. And, yeah. When I'm thinking about sweet and sticky chocolate, I often hearken back to the days when I was at Studio 54. No, I'm kidding. I was never at Studio. I've passed by there a couple of times. I think it's a clothing store or something. Do you know that CBGB's in New York is also, it's like a high-end, like, men's clothing store now? So sad. Oh, the past. Some things in the past need to be buried and left there, but some things need to be brought back. Like CBGB. We can have that, right? We can have nice things. I don't know. Maybe. Sexual chocolate. Sexual chocolate. You remember that from Coming to America? Where my activator? Sorry. Too many references, not enough time. Tonight, folks, our pals are back in action here. Who do you got going on tonight? Well, this afternoon, too, I believe our buddy Kevin at Black Bear News is going to be on at 2 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and Rockfin, I think. I don't know if he's on Rumble or not. He might be. Willie Bragg's threatening to have a show tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and Twitchies. And, of course, Around the World with D and Friends at 9 p.m. on the YouTubes. I might be doing a gaming stream later today because I've been doing this series it's not for Epic Games. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get paid by them. I don't work for them. I don't want anything to do with them. But they have free games, and I'm trying to help people get free games. So you have free entertainment. If you can't afford video games for your PC, at least you can get these free ones. So we might be doing that this afternoon as well, because I think the new it's only free until the end of tonight and up until 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, maybe. So, but we'll be playing a little bit of that this afternoon. It's going to be the Lego Star Wars thing with Skywalker, so should be good. Kill your egregores. Hello. Good to see you, my friend. Your timing is impeccable right at the end of the show. But that's okay. We'll have another one on Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, and 8 a.m. Pacific Time. If you're new to this joint and you want to like, share, and subscribe, that would be great. That's all free stuff. If you want to donate to the show, we got links down below. CashApp, Venmo, PayPal, all that good stuff. Also, if you want to be a Patreon subscriber, we have $1 a month that you could do. It's great. We appreciate all the help. All the help that you provide, even if it's not monetary, if you're just sharing out these links, you're doing a great service for not just for me, but for everybody else that you do that for as well. So thank you for that. And I thank you guys for hanging out with me today. It's been it was a little bit of a hecticness with the last second tech stuff, but I think we did okay. Not to my liking, but it's never perfect to my liking. So love each and every one of you. Stay cool, stay out of the cults. Make sure you're using your critical thinking skills, and don't be a sucker. Okay, we got too many of those as it is. Peace out, y'all. You heard.
This is City Alpha 5! Woo!